now I've just been perfecting it ever since.
Wow, wow, wow. Good old Lamar. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I think a lot of people are kicking themselves because they didn't get more involved with Bitcoin back then. Because I mean, it wasn't like we just started talking about it. You know, when Bitcoin was at less than 10,000, less than 5,000 even, I think a lot of people were discussing it and I think that that uncertainty kind of leads us to sort of waffle a little bit, or maybe you see a dip and you sell and all that stuff, and a lot of money got left on the table. And I know you know about that video. What was that guy? What's his name? Da Vinci, the
Oh
guy in
yeah,
2013 that was begging everybody. To...
yeah. $1, $1.
Yeah, that to me is the greatest flex like in human history, in my opinion. The fact that he has that video and he can go around and show that he was screaming and begging people to buy it. And the thing is that it wouldn't have taken much to just be in the game, just to participate, you know. And
Yeah.
you wouldn't even have to be a fortune teller. You wouldn't have to know the future. You just say, okay, well, why not? Right? Like I think a lot of people ask themselves, like, why should I invest? I think the bigger question is like, why not invest? You know, what are you
Right.
gonna do? Spend your money, throw it away? You know, right? So tell me about your life and your background, man. Where are you from? How did you get in this mindset? Like, tell me about your youth and how you were raised and what part of the country, where you went to school, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Los Angeles. My family moved me from South Central to Rialto, California, went in the 90s when it got crazy. So I went to a school called Carter High School. Um, I got to learn what money was from when it was up and it was down. My dad was a computer programmer who went to Germany to learn about systems with SAP and to introduce those systems into companies based in the US. But when 9/11 hit, uh, the companies were no longer thinking about implementing these systems, they were thinking about safety. And so the income completely went from way up to hardly anything. And so I went from one of the best private schools in junior high to a school that made national news for its fights. And so I got to see the world from both sides. I was blessed to be able to get a full ride scholarship to Texas Southern University in Houston, HBCU. I graduated finance and accounting, and immediately upon that, I took a job at Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railway, which is a railroad based in Fort Worth, Texas. Um, they taught me everything I need to learn about accounting. I'm very grateful for the experience, but they worked me like a dog. There was times I was working past midnight, back-to-back nights, and then if I come in, 10 minutes or like a couple hours late the third day, they told me I was stealing company hours. Even though I wasn't getting paid for anything past 5, I was working past midnight. Now, if I
Mm.
miss 2 or 3 hours in the morning, I'm stealing. And so I was actually watching your videos talking about get off the corporate plantation. And so I was like, budgeting my money, trying to figure out, okay, when's the best time to take that leap? As well as my one of the people I listened to, Nipsey Hussle. So like between the two of you guys, it was like, okay, I got to get out of here. And really, when Sandra Bland passed away, I was like, okay, it's time to take the leap. I can't do this anymore. I got to fight for my own people. I left without a real plan. I mean, my plan was to get my CPA license and start my own, but that's all I had. And so all the money I saved up, all the credit I had completely disappeared. I mean, I had money went past zero, below zero. Credit went from the high sevens to below 4, which I didn't even know it could go below 4. Um, so, but I leveraged all of that to get my license. I started working with Nipsey at a Vector 90, which was his entrepreneur spot in LA. Um, the goal was for me to be my goal, whether it's his goal or not. My goal is to be his CPA. I passed my exam in February 2019. He passed away in March 2019, so
Mm.
that never happened. Um, I stayed in LA for a little bit longer. Won an award at a Vector 90, uh, and then the biggest moment that nobody ever really would know unless I talked about it that was the day I got debanked. So I won an award at Vector 90. And then that same day, I was going to the post office to file my CPA application. And I was like really excited. Got to the post office and they said decline. I checked my bank and I have enough money. I don't have a lot of money. Like I think the application was like $250. I may have had 350 in my account, but I still had 250. And so for them to decline it, I called them and they said, "Hey, we shut down your account," and they didn't tell me why. And so that night, I actually had to sleep at the airport. um, because I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have any money for gas because they shut down my account. And that's when I realized that Bitcoin was about more than just the financial value. It was about the ability to transact peer to peer without a middleman. And so then I wound up getting my license in 2020. Black Bitcoin Billionaires, which is Lamar Wilson, joined that. And from there, I went on tour 2 years in a row with Naja Roberts. She owns a digital exchange in California. And after going 2 years around the country, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of being domestic. I'm going to figure out a way to go around the world. And here we are in 2024, 2025, traveling the world through Bitcoin, living a decentralized lifestyle. And I'm very grateful. I thank God every day.
Wow, man. You said a lot of names that I respect. You know, Najee Roberts and Lamar Wilson, Nipsey Hussle, of course. You know, I love that, man. I mean, I think it's okay, so your journey was kind of guided by these individuals that gave you an education that went above and beyond what you might have got in college, right? And it's unfortunate, right? When we think about um how college a lot of times educates us to work like dogs and that's it with very little reward, right? And then you start to get to my in my opinion the real education, which is like, okay, here's how you can actually do well without working like a dog, without staying overnight and or working, into the 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, all that. And it seems unfortunate that so many of us are trained to do that. Even I mean, I hate even saying this. I love our HBCUs, but it seems like there's more that we could do in terms of really saying what are you invested in and how do you benefit from that investment? Like, let me give you an example. I'm sure you love Kendrick Lamar, his performance. I mean, you're a West Coast guy.
Yes,
I know my
sir.
West Coast guys, I mean Kendrick is one of a kind. He's amazing. But I had to make a little tweet today about it. I said it was an awesome performance. I said, isn't it interesting that the Super Bowl was full of black people everywhere except for the owner's box, right?
Yeah.
Except the owner's box. And what you see and what I end up seeing is when you're working hard for a company, you're investing in that company. When you are buying products from a company, you're investing in that company. When you're performing entertainment at the Super Bowl, you're investing in the brand for the Super Bowl. And if you look at the Super Bowl, you look at the history of these NFL teams, a lot of them were bought for under $2 or $3,000. And the families own these teams, and now they're worth 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 billion. And part of the reason that they have those billions of dollars in wealth is because they've had a lot of really consistent black investors, right? You know, like the owners of the Chicago Bears. I don't think any of them ever got CTE, right? You know, I
Right.
don't think any of them have ever made a tackle. None of them have ever done a two-a-day practice. None of them have ever performed in dance at the Super Bowl. So we are investors in the NFL, but we just don't get a return on our investment. And that's what happens when you get trapped in that employee mindset. I said a lot just now, but did you have any thoughts on anything that I just said?
Well, yeah, I actually thought about that myself. So at the end, they have all the trophies, Jalen Hurts, the Eagles, all of these things. And then you see the owners. And when you see the owners, you start to really realize, yeah, they're the ones who really got paid. When you think about the rings, how much is a ring worth? How much is a trophy worth? And then you really think you're risking your brain getting hit every single day. Your ankles, your arms, but really your brain more than anything. Even Terry Bradshaw, you can see him shaking. That hurts my feelings. Like, I saw on Twitter people were laughing. I'm not laughing. Like that's serious. And those players are down there. You're fighting for a ring, and you're fighting for a trophy. You're fighting for some paper money. Um, and it's like, do you really value your life? Do you value your soul? Do you value your brain? Do you value your family? And it's one of those things where I think that as an accountant, um, we have to really think about what are assets, what are things that go up in value versus liabilities, that things that go down in value. And if you're fighting for a ring or you're fighting for a trophy, to me, most of that is sentimental value, because there's no actual usefulness for it, unless you sell it, or you entertain, or you just have it in a bin, like a showcase. And so it's one of those things where it's like, what do you value the most, and what are you getting out of the sacrifices that you're making? And unfortunately, the kids are taught from a very young age, go out there, give everything you can for this inch, give everything you can for the ring, give everything you can for the trophy. And the ones you see on TV, those are the few that were successfully able to do it, but how many hundreds of thousands of people weren't able to make it. I am grateful that we have meal deals in college now. I think that's a huge, enormous step in the right direction. But I also think that we need to have different avenues, and we need to make being intelligent cool again. And so that's one of the focuses that Nipsey had me doing, was making intelligent being be cool again.
Yeah, yeah, and I really think, and even then, I mean, it's crazy that we even got to the point that we thought intelligence was uncool. How does that happen? How does it how did it ever become cool to be stupid? Right? How did it ever become cool to be a day late, a dollar short, behind on everything, fucking over your family, excuse my French, because you don't know how to solve a problem as a man. You don't know how to, you know what I mean? Ain't nothing cool about that. Ain't nothing cool about your daughter looking up at you like, Daddy, like you don't know what to do, Daddy. You don't even have any, you can't provide for us. My mama tried to solve a problem. She messed up our lives. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not making fun of anybody in that category, right? I mean, if a person's ignorant, you can't blame an ignorant person for being ignorant because they don't know that they're ignorant. But what's really bad, what really angers me is when you have an intelligent person that pretends to be ignorant just so they can fit in, right? And like once, man, I was actually going on the Breakfast Club, and there was that rapper. I don't know if you remember Trinidad James. Gold
Yes,
all
yes,
in my chain, gold
yeah,
all in my ring, gold all in my watch. Don't believe me, just watch. Anyway, so Trinidad James, when I first saw his video, I thought it was a spoof. Actually, I didn't. I thought it was. I put it on my Facebook and I said, "Did y'all see this stuff?" And somebody's like, "No, Dr. Boyce, that's not real. That's a spoof." Like I thought it was like a spoof, like an SNL skit. So they were making. So I thought I made like one of those old man mistakes. Like, oh, okay. I thought it was a real video, but it turned out it was a real video, right? So Trinidad James, it was interesting. I went on the Breakfast Club, and the day before Trinidad James had come in on the show, I didn't meet him in person. And they were like, "So what do you think about him?" I said, I don't really like that. I don't like black men presenting ourselves this way. I think we're better than that." And they said, "Well, actually, Dr. Boyce, Trinidad James is a really smart guy. He went to college and he's really intelligent. Da, da, da. You just don't see it in the video." And I said, "Well, then that makes it even worse. That
right.
makes it worse. What makes you think that to be black, you got to be ignorant? Who made that decision, right? Who decided that if I want to fit in with black people, I gotta dumb it down. I gotta be because the thing is that being black requires us to be strategic. If anything requires strategy, it's the constant threat, the constant risk that comes with being black, especially as a black man. So to me, being smart, you shouldn't be smart just because it's cool. You should be smart because that's what's safe. That's what's going to keep you alive. That's what's going to help you survive. Because you and I both know you know this. I mean, you from South Central, you know how many brilliant black men are in prison. You know how many brilliant black men are dead. You know how many brilliant black men are not living their best lives, not living their purpose out. You know what I mean? So I think that intelligence piece, I think that that's a real interesting thing, like how that even happened, you know?
Yeah, I spoke to my dad about it. He's an author, and he talked about the movie Superfly. And so that was the first time that you had a black superhero, but the superhero wasn't written by black people. And because the money, the dollars were going into this movie so much, a lot of people started seeing, oh, well, the drug dealer and the Superfly, like the outfits, the loud, that's the hero, and he sticks it to the man as a drug dealer. And the thing is that wasn't written by a black person. And so it's one of those things where all of a sudden, if you can't control your narrative, they can control your narrative. They can make you think whatever they want about you. And so it also makes me think about Allen Iverson in his interview. I think that was like a big pivot in a lot of black men's views of the media. He was talking about practice. You know, all growing up, all I ever heard was practice. You're talking about practice. Don't be like Allen Iverson. He's a terrible person. He's lazy. He doesn't work hard. And then it took me like 10 years later, maybe even longer, 15 years later, to listen to the entire interview. And he was really talking about his best friend had been murdered. And we're
Mm.
talking about a practice. I still showed up to the game. I still played well, but my best friend got murdered. All of a sudden, when you think about the interview, you look at it from a completely different perspective. And he was actually being vulnerable in that interview. To be honest with you, that's what you want from an athlete. You want from an entertainer, anybody that you look up to, is to be vulnerable and to be able to speak how they really feel. But after that, nobody speaks on how they feel because they know that they can take those those little sound bites and make it for what they want, distort it. And so that's why I applaud somebody like LeBron James or Draymond Green or anybody who has their own platforms, yourself, because now we can control our narrative. Whereas I think Superfly for a good 50 years, they took their narrative from us, and now we're just starting to reclaim it with the internet and now with the value that's going to be indoctrinated on the blockchain.
Wow, wow, I love that. And by the way, everybody who just came in, I'm speaking with Charles Kelly. Charles Kelly is an expert on crypto and taxes. And we're going to get to talking about crypto and taxes now because I just want you guys to get to know him because I think he's an interesting guy. And he's going to actually be our special guest in Dr. Boyce Crypto tomorrow night. If you guys want to join the crypto club that we have, just go to b1crypto.com, b1crypto.com, and I'll send you guys a link to do a free trial if you'd like to join. So, Mr. Kelly, I'd like to ask you about this. In terms of crypto and taxes, what would be some things that people, common misperceptions about crypto and taxes or mistakes that people make when it comes to crypto and taxes that they should be aware of?
So I'll start off with the easy, big stuff first. The first one is that crypto is not taxable because the government doesn't own it. That is completely false. That's a complete lie. The second one is that, well, they can't track it. That is the biggest misconception because every transaction is recorded on the blockchain, and they have different companies like coin analysts that goes in there and verifies they're able to track all the transactions. I actually had one client who used Tornado Cash to try to hide some money, and I found it, and he was shocked because he was like, "Well, what do you mean? I thought you couldn't find it for Tornado Cash. That's like a mixer." And I was like, "Man, I can't take you as a client anymore, so I have to release them because you're trying to hide your money from the accountant." And so, number one, uh, it is taxable. Number two, it's easily traced. And then number three, uh, make sure that on your tax return at the very first page, like right under your address, it basically asks if you've been involved in any digital assets. If you click no, but you've KYC'd, meaning you've given and exchanged your social security number, that is the most easiest cross reference ever. And if you check no and you've been knowingly in crypto, then that is considered fraud or evasion. And they have an infinite amount of time to audit you. And so if you try your best, they typically only have 3 years to audit you. As long as you're within like a 25% error rate. They don't normally only have 3 years. Sometimes they'll move it up to 6 years if the error rate was a little higher. But very rare is it more than 6 years. But if it's considered evasion or fraud, meaning you check that box no, but you've been doing stuff on like a Coinbase or a Cash App, they have an infinite amount of time. And right now, while the administration is very nice on taxes when it comes to crypto, just do your best because chances are the next administration won't be so nice or so fair on it.
Mm. So do the regular capital gains tax rules sort of apply to crypto? Meaning we know it's taxable, right? We know that you will be taxed on your crypto. Is it something where if I own Bitcoin and I just don't sell it, I don't pay taxes until I sell, just kind of like typical capital gains taxes, or are there different rules that apply?
So for the most part, it's the same as stocks, but there's some differences. So first, if all you do is buy, then there's no taxes. You don't have to report it. Uh, I would still check the box, yes. There's been some back and forth saying, well, the IRS website says you can click no, but the IRS website isn't the actual Internal Revenue Code. And so there's been a lot of back and forth within each government entity, IRS, SEC, commodities. Like they're all fighting to figure out everything. But the bottom line uh, is the differences as of right now would be like the wash rule. There is no wash rule in crypto. So like in stocks, if the price goes down and you try to sell and then you try to rebuy it back, there's a certain amount of days you have to wait until you can actually lower your cost basis. And crypto is not like that. So if you bought your Bitcoin at 107, now it's at like 96. You might want to sell it, take that loss, rebuy it back so you still have as much as you want and you have a built-in loss. That's allowed in crypto, tax loss harvesting. Um, Another difference, and it's getting more difficult. They're adding regulations, but in stocks, Most of the time you have like a FIFO method, meaning the first stock that's the same. So say if you buy Google every day for the year, if you decide to sell, typically you would sell the very first share that you got, and that's called FIFO, first in, first out. But crypto, you don't have to sell the first one. You could choose any of those days that you bought and use it to your advantage, and that's called specific identification. And you do not have to tell the government um, which methodology that you're using. Um, but they are starting to make it more difficult because it's always been whenever you sell, spend, um, exchange, those have always been capital events. But now they've moved it from uh, a universal wallet method to wallet, meaning if you move your Bitcoin or your crypto from one of your wallets that's on an exchange to another one, now that's become a taxable event. More than likely, they're going to get sued for this because that's like saying, well, if I move it from my savings to my checkings accounts, why is that taxable? But they did that so that the 1099 DAs that come out, 1099 DA meaning digital asset, when that comes out, it's easier for the exchange to provide that information. Um, but yeah, those are some of the main differences right now. Is the wash rule, specific identification, um, and uh, and just how it's viewed as property versus uh, a commodity. And there's probably going to be some more in depth between each individual crypto because not all cryptos are the same and they don't all have the same use cases.
Mm. Okay, so I'd like to know, so Charles Kelly, your opinion. How do you think that the Trump administration, the election of Trump and all that is going to change the face of crypto? I mean, it seemed like the crypto guys pretty much they pretty much almost got him elected. I mean, other than maybe Elon Musk and his participation, but it seemed like the crypto guys were really supporting him, and got him into office. So I assume that this will create a better environment for crypto investors. What is your take on it?
The regulatory environment, without a doubt. Bitcoin in itself doesn't need any administration whatsoever. It doesn't need help. It didn't matter if Kamala was in there. It didn't matter if Trump was in there. It didn't matter if Mickey Mouse was in there. Um, Bitcoin is going to stand regardless because it's not controlled by a government, any individual or any business. And any government that's tried to ban it, such as China or Nigeria, uh, they've been met with the underground using it and it actually increases the price in that area. So Bitcoin cannot be stopped regardless of any government. It's peer to peer. Think of like Kazaa or LimeWire. People were still exchanging music back and forth, even when it was illegal. And when you shut down one, you have another one. But with Bitcoin, because it's around the entire world, you can shut down this country, but you're not going to shut down that country or this country or that country. And Nigeria, even though for a while the government was against it, the people in Nigeria used it more than anybody else because they recognize that their local currency, their naira, has been devalued so often, and so the government can't do anything with Bitcoin. However, with these other coins, governments can shut those down because those are companies. Um, and so you had a lot of banks that recognized that Bitcoin and crypto was a threat to them. And so they debanked people, they debanked companies for getting into crypto. And so now this administration, definitely shout outs to Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming. She's going after all the people that made it hard for the crypto people. And so you have some really big senators, you have some really big representatives. Senator Lummis, she's amazing. You have Tim Scott, Senator Tim Scott. He's doing very well in the crypto. He's over the Senate Banking Committee. You have Chairman Hill. You have a lot of them. You have representatives Byron Donalds. You have Tom Emmer. And so you have a lot of people now that are in positions of power now. And not only are they trying to go after the people that made it difficult, but now they're trying to create a terrific environment, like a terrific environment for crypto to thrive. And so I'm very, very, very excited about the administration in terms of the crypto, not social. I don't get into that, but in the business world, I believe that this administration is doing a very good job. That's without the emotions. That's not looking at race. That's not looking at social issues. That's squarely looking at Bitcoin and crypto because I've been in Bitcoin before it got political. Um, so I'm not looking at the political side, especially I'm not in the US anymore. So I'm not even thinking about the social side.
Well, so okay, so let's. And I'm curious about that. Um, so the digital nomad thing, I didn't get a chance to ask you everything about that. Uh, and maybe you did touch on it. I'm gonna ask anyway, just because I just got over my sickness, so maybe I forgot. But what made you decide to live in other countries? Like what's the thought process here, and how long do you plan to do that?
So I've planned on traveling to different countries for years, but it wasn't until I started feeling a lot of black backlash from my own community that I was like, I need to leave. And it came me being a CPA. I'm in all the meetings, meaning I know what's going on behind closed doors. I'm in every single meeting until the very last decision meeting at BNSF. And BNSF has nothing to do with crypto, just an example. I see the numbers at the very bottom. I come up with the financial statements. I take that to my manager. My manager then takes it to the director. The director then takes it to the general director. I present at all those meetings. And then we take it to the CFO. Now, my general director might speak about that, but I'm still in the meeting. So if they ask a detailed question, I can provide the answers. And then they leave me alone. And then they go to the CEO, they make the final decision, and they report that financial to Warren Buffett. So literally, my reports will say to Warren Buffett. And so when I'm telling people, hey, this is what's going on, this, it's wild. It is crazy to me that the people that I love and care about will basically look at me like I'm crazy and not value the information I'm providing when I'm literally telling you what's in the CEO meetings, but I'm telling you what's going on. And so the amount of backlash I would get from my own community is stressing me out. And I was like, I just got to get away. And then going to Africa, it made me see the world from a completely different perspective because a lot of Africans are looking at going to America for the opportunities, the money, and the jobs, but their quality of life in Africa is so much better. Especially like in Nairobi, where I was, it's just that they're not making a lot of money, it's not developed. So looking at America as a place of opportunity. But if I'm able to take my income from the States and I already created my opportunity and I go out there, my living situation is better. And so when I'm looking in the States, you get hit with two punches. You get hit with inflation whenever they print money, meaning your savings can buy less and less money. They're stealing your time and energy from printing out money. I I incubate myself from that with Bitcoin. And the other one is taxes. The more money you make, the more money you got to pay in taxes. Well, if you travel the world, you're out of the country for 50 out of 52 weeks, you don't have to pay tax on your first 126,000. And so now I'm actually able to pay less in taxes, not get hit by inflation, and take advantage of the cost of living. And then because a lot of them are looking for opportunities in America, I'm then able to connect people in America to Kenya or to anywhere in Africa and have jobs so that they're not working for $180 a month. A lot of them are getting exploited so bad by the Chinese and by these European countries. Now I can connect them to some of my people back in the States. They could pay less than half of what they pay somebody in the States, but they can get the Kenyans or the Africans get paid more than double or three times more what they're used to making out there. And so I'm bridging those gaps. And that was another thing that Nipsey had me do was he was saying he wanted to connect LA to Silicon Valley to Africa. And so I feel like I'm living that mission right now and making those connections. And so for me to leave, it was like I've always wanted to see the world. And when I just saw the opportunity met the preparation, it was like, okay, it's time to make that leap. I already took the leap of faith leaving corporate America. Now it's time to make the leap to leave in America.
Wow. Wow. I really love that. I think that's great. I think it's a great plan. And by the way, y'all have to excuse me, everybody. For some reason, my eye was watering really bad, but that's why I was sitting there like doing this while you're talking. Okay. So that's really fascinating. I mean, I think just overall, and I'm very sorry that you had people that didn't understand your vision and who you are. One of the things I've always believed is that there's no one way to be black, right? There's no one way to be black, and everybody. you run so many people who think that there's like an instruction manual for being black. Like you got to know how to do certain dances, you got to eat certain food, you got to speak a certain way. And I think it's all bullshit. It drives me insane because we put ourselves in a box, we put ourselves in a trap, and it's unfortunate when when you have somebody that has some different ideas and you have people that will just crap all over it. Believe me, I know that, right? When I first started talking about investing in a public space around '06, '07, I get a lot of pushback. Even urban radio stations that said black people don't want to know how to invest. They don't care about investing. Right now, but then a decade later, everybody was talking about it, right? And so I personally felt what I learned over time is you have to ignore the people that um, can't see the vision. You don't explain. I don't even try. I don't even believe in wasting time trying to explain your vision to people who are going to fight it. Because they're just expressing their own limitation. You have to forgive them for they know not what they do, all that stuff, and just find the people that can see the vision. Because it's really hard. Because I mean, keeping a vision alive is already difficult without having ignorant people arguing with you the whole time. That's going to stress you out and distract you. What you do is you say, okay, I get it. No problem. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, whatever. And then you go talk to people who actually are ready for that level of possibility in their lives. People that are ready, so I always say, that I never wanted to be like a black leader or none of that stuff. I'm not a bridge builder. I'm not the guy that's going to bring everybody together. No, I draw the line in the sand. Like either you trying to meet the standard or you're not. Either you sick of the shit or you're not. Either you're trying to do better or you're not. And if you ain't trying to do better, then I will sit back and just allow you to enjoy your life. And I want to talk to the people that get it, right? And the beauty of blackness though is there are a lot of people that have always waited to like really come out of the closet, so to speak. Meaning there are people that are like, yeah, I always wanted to do this, this, and this, but none of my relatives understood it. They never supported it, or they thought I wasn't being black anymore. It's like, no, no, there's no, can't nobody take your black card away, and I think being a global citizen is beneficial as well because I don't know if we realize how good we actually have it here in certain areas, like economically at least. Like we are rich. Black people in America are very, very rich. And we just think we're poor because white people are so much richer, but we're doing really well. And then you go to other countries and you see that dire poverty. You see people who would literally die to get the same opportunities that many of our kids take for granted. It's humbling, you know. It takes you, to another level in terms of appreciation. So let me ask you this. And by the way, Charles's website, I'm gonna give y'all Charles's website. It's smartguytaxes.com. Smartguytaxes.com. Somebody type that in the chat. Smartguytaxes.com. So if you want a smart guy to do your taxes, looks like Charles is your guy. Now I can say I haven't tried his service, but he gets vetted by everybody that comes in here gets vetted by Chanel, and Chanel wouldn't be letting no BS up in here. I didn't know much about Mr. Kelly before we met today, but I know that when Chanel speaks to people before they come in, she always makes sure that we're not tying up with no shenanigans or nothing. So, smartguytaxes.com is his website. He's also going to be a guest tomorrow night in our Black Crypto Club. So if you'd like to join the crypto club, you can do a free trial, 30 days, 100% free. Just try it out. Go to b1crypto.com. That's B1 Crypto, B the number one crypto.com, and I'll send you guys a link. So, Mr. Kelly, let's finish on this note then. Okay, so going forward, if I am a person that wants to invest in crypto and I want to build my wealth and I want to make sure I understand what's going on with the tax stuff, what are some recommendations you might have in terms of some best practices that I might want to keep so that I can make sure I don't run afoul of the law? I think a lot of people, it almost seems like some people even think that now that Trump is in office and he hates the IRS, that they're not going to be enforcing anything anymore and collecting their revenue. I don't believe that. I believe the IRS will always be around. What are some best practices I might want to adopt to make sure that I stay safe and stay out of the way of the IRS?
The biggest thing is to keep track of all of your transactions. This can be very difficult for traders or for people who like to use a lot of DeFi or different multiple exchanges because not every exchange provides the transactions. DeFi may not provide the transactions. Most exchanges up until this point haven't provided any 1099s, but it's still your responsibility to pay the taxes that you owe. Of course, I'm going like a CPA who represents you is going to try to take the stance of whatever's in your favor, but no matter what, you're going to need to have evidence. And so that evidence is keeping track of all your transactions. Try to keep it in two different places, possibly on Excel, on your computer, and on an external hard drive. Because if you lose it, that can be devastating. And with the new rules, they're saying if you don't have evidence, then we're going to basically tax you the worst possible as we can. And that basically says your cost basis can be zero. They might say first come, first serve, or first out, first in, first out, FIFO. But if you don't have any evidence, then they're going to make a cost basis of zero. I mean, you've been paying taxes on stuff that you weren't even supposed to. And so the best practice is to make sure you keep track of all your crypto transactions in one to two places, so that if you lose one, you still have access to it. To me, that's the most important thing in terms of organization. The other one is just make sure that that box is checked yes if you've been in any crypto stuff. There's plenty more strategies, but to me, those are the main two that I try to stress to everybody. I don't charge for those two pieces of advice because I care about the community. Please, please keep your crypto transactions organized, and please check that box yes if you've been doing any crypto trading or transactions. And if you want to learn more about crypto, the first place to start is really the Bitcoin white paper. So you understand what you're getting yourself into and what all the copycats are. If you come in trying to make money off of a fart coin or a Melania coin or a Trump coin, and that's your introduction, that's where you put your money, then you're really basically in a casino, because whomever is behind those cryptos, they control the entire ecosystem. So they can create new coins, they can burn coins, they can do whatever they want, they can sell their coins. And if you don't research, if I'm speaking gibberish to you, then you haven't done enough research to really get in. And so read the Bitcoin white paper, check the box yes on your taxes if you've been in crypto, and keep all your crypto transactions organized.
So what are your biggest crypto investments?
So I have not bought any other coin since 2020 other than Bitcoin. I used to buy a lot in 2017 to 2020. I was just going crazy with it. And occasionally, uh, some of those have gone skyrocket up, and I'll take some profits and I'll pay off, some bills, or I'll make some other investments. But Bitcoin to me is the money, especially if the strategic Bitcoin reserve gets passed like I'm expecting it to. Uh, and so if that gets passed, that means the US dollar could either be backed by Bitcoin, or they would have a additional fund of 1 million Bitcoins to be able to have strategically to transact with the world. Whatever it is, if the government's holding on 1 million Bitcoins, there's only 21 million to ever be created. To me, that's extremely valuable.
Hmm.
There are other coins that this administration is looking at, such as the XRP or XLM or HBAR. But to me, those are companies. So XRP might be an upgrade to Visa, but Bitcoin is the upgrade to the US dollar to gold. Ethereum might be, to me, it's like a whole new thing because now you're dealing with the metaverse. So to me, Ethereum might be an upgrade to Microsoft. But you have to really understand the different types of cryptos because they're all very different. And so the main one is Bitcoin. That's all I accumulate, but I still hold Ethereum. I still have XRP. I still have a couple Chinese ones like TRX, some things like that. But I haven't accumulated anything since 2020 outside of Bitcoin.
Wow. 1 million Bitcoin. Are they seriously thinking about buying that?
Correct. That was in a bill by Senator Lummis. So during the last Bitcoin conference in Nashville, Tennessee, um, she announced the bill, the act that basically said that the U.S. government over the course of 5 years would accumulate 1 million Bitcoins. Right now, they have about 240,000 of them from Mount Gox and a couple other where they, if there was a crime, they hold on to it. Um, Biden at the very end tried to make it to where they can get rid of them, but they didn't get rid of it in time. And so now that Trump's in office, they made a freeze to that. And so now they'll potentially get 1 million of them. And you also have, I think, 22 states now that have introduced bills for the individual states to accumulate Bitcoin. So you might have it at a state level and a federal level. And now, in response to that, now you have different companies that are now saying, okay, well, if the government's going to get into it, we're going to get into it. And now you have different countries that are looking at America and they're saying, well, if America's going to do that, we're going to do that. And so I think this is actually the very beginning of hyper Bitcoinization, which is where everything is going to wind up being based, like everything is going to be priced in US in Bitcoin. And I think when the price of Bitcoin goes too high, that's going to be changed from overall Bitcoin to Satoshis, which is a fractional piece of Bitcoin. Just like there's 100 pennies to a dollar, there's 100 million Satoshis to a Bitcoin. And so, like when I was with Naja Roberts traveling the country, we just advised everybody to at least get 1 million Satoshis for your children and for yourself so that you're saving for the future. Because we believe that one day Bitcoin will hit 1 million, probably within 5 years, and it'll probably hit 100 million by the time it's time for my retirement. And so, you know, just accumulate and make sure the biggest thing is to make sure you own your private keys. If you don't own your private keys, then you don't actually own your Bitcoin. Isaiah Jackson, Bitcoin Zay, he has a phrase called "no keys, no cheese." If you don't own the keys, if you don't own the keys to your Bitcoin, you don't own it. And so a lot of these people that are buying these Bitcoin ETFs, they don't own their keys. And BlackRock is literally just one bill away from saying, "Hey, make it to where they can't own their keys, and then you're locked out of it forever." In terms of the freedom of it, you might have the financial side, but you don't have the freedom. Think of it like gold bars. If you buy gold certificate, yeah, what if they decide to not honor and give you the actual gold? What are you going to do about it? Are you going to fight them? So to me, owning the actual physical assets, the most important piece. And so owning your keys is the most important piece um, to having that. So you might want to get a cold wallet. You might want to do other things, but that's what they're going to learn on in the Black Crypto Club. So we go over that a little later.
Yeah, yeah, that's really fascinating stuff. And by the way, Charles, you can tell he knows what he's talking about. And if you have specific discussions you'd like to have with him, questions you'd like to have, the Black Crypto Club meets tomorrow night. I believe it's 8 o'clock. And if you'd like to join us, go to b1crypto.com. That's b the number one crypto.com. And there will be a much smaller number of people in that session. So if you want to come to that private meet and greet with Charles and ask him questions directly, you can certainly do that. And I can say this based on what you're saying. I mean, I was thinking about 1 million Bitcoin. That's $100 billion. That's an insane. That's a lot of money. And that to me is yet another reason why investing in Bitcoin, I think, is the right strategy. And really, it was the right strategy even years ago because there were so many legislative barriers sort of inhibiting the growth of Bitcoin, and that the price was kept, I believe, artificially low. I got made fun of because I predicted Bitcoin would hit 100,000 way back in 2020, 2021, and it didn't. But the reason it didn't was because the legislators were just blocking it so often, right? And doing these things to undermine and create what they call it, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And then you had Sam Altman, or it's not Sam Altman, what's it, Sam
SBF.
Bankman-Fried, and what happened there with FTX. And it's just, but long term, it's a good long term play, in my opinion. It's something that I am invested in consistently. So I want to say thank you, Charles, very much for your time. I appreciate you, brother. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow night as well.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Charles's website is smartguytaxes.com. That's smartguytaxes.com. Also, he's going to be our special guest tomorrow night in the Black Crypto Club. So if you have an interest in crypto, bring your whole family. Don't just bring yourself, bring your kids, bring your spouse, bring your parents, whoever you want to bring your best friend. And it's going to be, it's b1crypto.com, be the number one crypto.com. We meet tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. And also, you guys will hear from me again soon. If you're not on the text list for this class, we meet every morning, 7 days a week. You can text the word morning to the number 87948, and I'll send you a wake up call. So text morning to 87948, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Have a wonderful day. And thank you again, Charles. God bless you.